Ana's one of the most popular heroes in all of Overwatch. Her kit empowers you with a lot of options and is incredibly satisfying to play. But it's surprising to me how many players I see get to decently high ranks and then get stuck by not knowing this #1 game sense tip. It applies to the philosophy of how you use your abilities, what you're even aiming to do. In today's video, we're going to be looking at a diamond player who got placed into matchmaking in a gold lobby and struggled to carry. But what was making what was pretty obvious to me a game-losing mistake over and over again. Our diamond hero has decent mechanics, is able to land the attacks and abilities, but is making a crucial game sense error, not understanding the difference between value and tempo. When you have resources in any game, doesn't have to be Overwatch, but card games as well. If you hold your cards or hold your abilities for the biggest possible impact, that would be considered playing for value. On the other hand, tempo is when you use the resources you have as fast as possible to apply early pressure on the opponent. What players seem to forget about Ana is that her disable abilities, Sleep Dart and Anti-Nade, are more often than not better to be utilized for value instead of tempo, which means holding them for a bigger impact is going to net a much bigger reward. There's many reasons for this, because not only are they your best offense, they're also your best defense. Without any mobility options, having an ability available is a threat that can deter or punish an enemy. Then on top of that, there's many characters in the game, specifically the Giga Tanks, who do not go down until you time abilities and disables like this appropriately. We've got two early examples of using our abilities for tempo, it looking cringeworthy to me, knowing that this is a horrible mistake, but we're winning the fights anyway. Capping on A, the enemy Orisa is blowing her abilities very early, so the fact that we're blowing our abilities into her doesn't look like it's going to amount to a punish. She stays in the fight too long, and despite her supports giving her everything she's got, she doesn't manage her cooldowns well enough, and we throwing our abilities at her repeatedly eventually works in taking her down. But this is a case where she was walking into a disadvantage. And the same thing happens as we're trying to push into C, and we have a man advantage riding the cart. The enemy is getting staggered, and in these cases, when we're already winning, using abilities for tempo is a lot less punished because the windows for the enemy to have any opportunity to do anything to your team are so low that simply having any abilities on the field likely snowballs your advantage. Things get trickier though as we die, need to reset, and then need to break out of a neutral fight. When someone else hasn't done the carrying for us and it's on our position and role and character to do the carrying, using our abilities haphazardly for low value plays means we're not going to contribute to any kills. I see so many Ana players turn the corner, look at the enemy from medium to long range, and throw sleep darts and Ana nades from miles away, not realizing what I had said at the start of the video, which is those abilities are what keep you alive. And what ends up happening is in those long cooldown cycles, when you don't have those abilities available, enemies can easily walk right onto you. And even if you did hit a sleep dart from medium to long range, is anybody on your team going to kill that target? It really doesn't matter. It gains you a little bit of ult, but nothing else. And this is particularly a problem up against durable heroes that have either escapes or defensive cooldowns, ones that we could punish if we knew the order of operations to play for value. An enemy Roadhog should be deathly afraid for going anywhere near the backline against an Ana, but an Ana player that tosses her cooldowns out like candy is fresh meat. In these situations where we're using our cooldowns frivolously, like we were when we were winning, means that we're not able to secure the kills on these targets, because what you want to be looking for is opportunities to land your abilities on the end of the stack of cooldown exchanges. What that means, what you want to do is use your primary rifle as much as possible to force out enemy cooldowns first, and then your cooldowns to close the fight, as opposed to initiating the fight with them. This creates a much bigger impact, because there's multiple times in this footage where the enemy Roadhog should be dead to rights in our backline, but we use our nade when he's at full health, where we're not going to be able to do enough damage to him as a team. He can shuffle away, outweight the anti-nade effect, then use take a breather, which gives him both fortification and life. Whereas we could rob effectively 300 life points from the Roadhog if we just waited to use the nade. Imagine that. Think of landing a headshot as Ana. That's what that is, to disable an enemy's take a breather as he begins to use it. But landing a nade too early when the tank's at full health means you're not going to end up doing much more damage than your rifle would have if you just shot him twice. This same mistake looks even harsher when we use our nade early up against a Moira who has a fade cooldown at 6 seconds that cleanses off off our anti-nade effect. Characters like this, Reaper, Hog, Moira, etc. We want to be using our disables after we force out their escape cooldown to secure the kill, as opposed to force their cooldown out, because that's not really how Overwatch works. Like, escape cooldowns are good at cleansing offensive cooldowns. They're built to be durable in that way. And Ana is built to close out the fight, and if you don't have those cooldowns, it's not going to do that. I've got a gameplay from Quick Play where I'm playing with a silver tank who's going up against a tank that's clearly many levels above him. But by applying this simple rule of waiting for the opportune moment as opposed to initiating with my abilities, I'm really able to erase every single mistake that my Roadhog teammate makes. In this gameplay, when I get locked in the engagement with the enemy Hog, I'm trying to be as greedy with my nade cooldown as possible, allowing for my team to apply as much damage to him for as long as we can, using my nade to heal if I have to, but ideally waiting for the nade to be a closer to finish off the enemy Hog as he's using breather to disable it. Over the course of a tank battle throughout the whole game, you're really going to begin to notice a support line diff, even if your tanks are even, or in this case, much lower than one another. The reason is the potential value swing we're talking about is hundreds of extra life for your tank and up to 300 less life on the enemy, just by deciding on when to use your nade at a different time. Because Ana is a very flimsy character, decently easy to hit, and with no mobility, as you rank up, higher level players are going to see that you've used those cooldowns, especially early in the fight before anything's happening. As a higher ranked player, I see that, I'm licking my chops ready to go at the Ana and get a free kill. So you simply won't get away with playing that way for very long, and it gets so extreme that at the highest tiers of play, at pro play, they almost never use those cooldowns, funnily enough. In a pro match, they might hold it throughout the entire fight, just to have it in their back pocket, because that's how important the value is of it being a threat, and what positions the enemy are allowed to play just by it being available or not. So with that principle being the case, you better get big value when you do use it, as opposed to using it early on when your team isn't able to confirm and a limb on it. In general, I think a lot of Overwatch players begin to get a little nervous with the chaos of the game, feeling that they have to do too much in order to win. But oftentimes, just about every character benefits from simply knowing where you need to position, safely holding it, and managing your resources carefully. Try to train yourself out of the see the enemy, toss everything you got at them as soon as possible mentality, and instead let your primary fire, the one that is infinite with a short reload animation, be the main thing your APM is focused on. Let your positioning and primary attacks focus out bad usages of cooldowns from the enemy team first, then use value cooldowns to close them out. Learning that simple skill can get you up to 2 ranks higher than your current ranking, I'd say. If you found this Ana tip video useful, please be sure to leave the video with a like. Check the link in the description to submit in replay codes if you would like to get your footage featured on the channel for tips and tricks. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos go live. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.